Today's story is called The Widow's Tears, and I promise you, the ending will leave you speechless. Have you ever said something as a joke only to watch in horror as those exact words came true? Have you ever loved someone so much that you'd trade places with them in a heartbeat? Keep that question in your mind because in this story, a man's playful words became a prophecy and a woman's joy turned to ashes in just 48 hours. If you're new here, subscribe and ring that notification bell. In a small village in eastern Nigeria, a woman named Amaka learned that the worst storms in life often come without warning. Amaka was a woman who believed in blessings. Every morning, she would wake up at dawn, touch her swollen belly where her third child grew, and thank the Creator for her life. She had two children already, 7-year-old Chisom, a girl with her father's smile, and 5-year-old Amaka, a boy with his mother's kind eyes. They lived in a modest compound with her husband, Chike, a carpenter known throughout the village for his honesty and skill. Their love story was the kind that made other women jealous, not with bitterness, but with longing. Chike would return from work covered in sawdust, and Amaka would laugh as she brushed it from his hair. He would place his rough carpenter's hands on her belly and speak to their unborn child. This one would be strong, he would say, like his mother, or gentle, like his father. Amaka would reply, and they would laugh together. But happiness, as you know, can be as fragile as a butterfly's wing. One evening, after a long day at the market, Amaka came home feeling unwell. It started with a headache. Nothing serious, she thought, just the pregnancy making her tired. But by nightfall, she was burning with fever. For 3 days, she lay in bed, too weak to cook, too dizzy to walk. The village herbalist came with bitter leaves and special roots. The elderly women whispered their prayers over her, but nothing worked. Chike was beside himself with worry. He stayed up through the nights, placing cool cloths on her forehead, forcing her to drink water even when she turned her face away. Please, he whispered to her on the third night, his voice breaking. Please don't leave me, Amaka. I can't raise these children alone. I can't live in a world without you. She managed a weak smile. I'm not going anywhere, my love. And that's when he said it. Chike held her hand tightly, looked up at the ceiling, and spoke to whatever force governs life and death. Listen to me, he said, half laughing, half crying. This sickness is picking on the wrong person. My wife is pregnant. She has children to raise. She has a life to live. He paused, then added, with the confidence of a man who thinks he's joking. If this sickness must stay in this house, then you should leave her and come to me instead. I'm strong. I can handle it. Just let my wife be well. Did you hear that? Sometimes the universe is listening when we least expect it. Amaka opened her eyes and squeezed his hand. Don't say such things, Chike. Not even as a joke. It's not a joke, he said, smiling now. I mean it. You get better and I'll take your place. Fair trade. Yes. She wanted to argue, but sleep was pulling her under. Within hours, something miraculous happened. The fever broke. By morning, Amaka sat up in bed, asking for food. By afternoon, she was walking around the compound, weak but healing. The children cheered. The neighbors celebrated. Chike danced around their small home, lifting little Amaka into the air. You see, he said to Amaka, I told you I'd take it from you. They laughed. Oh, how they laughed. They didn't laugh 2 days later. Before we continue, I need you to do something. If this story is touching your heart, hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because the wisdom in these stories is passed down through sharing. Now, back to Amaka's nightmare. It started the same way Amaka's sickness had started, a headache. Chike came home from work, touched his forehead, and said, I think I'm coming down with something. Amaka's blood ran cold. No, she whispered. No, no, no. It's nothing, he assured her. Just tired. I'll sleep it off. But by nightfall, his temperature was rising. By midnight, he was delirious. By dawn, he couldn't stand. Amaka called the same herbalist. The same elderly women came with their prayers. But this time, nothing worked. Take him to the hospital in the city, someone shouted. They did. They borrowed money. They hired a vehicle. They rushed him through rough roads as he burned with fever in the back seat, his head on Amaka's lap. You're going to be fine, she kept saying, tears streaming down her face. You're going to be fine. You promised me. You promised. He looked up at her with clouded eyes and managed to smile. Take care of our children, he whispered. All three of them. Don't, she said. Don't you dare say goodbye to me. But some goodbyes don't ask for permission. Chike died before they reached the hospital. In the vehicle, with his head on his wife's lap and his children crying in the corner. 2 days after Amaka recovered, 2 days after he had jokingly asked for her sickness to come to him, his last words had come true. Amaka's scream could be heard across the village when they brought his body back. It was the kind of scream that carries a soul's complete breaking, raw, primal, eternal. But her suffering had only just begun. I need you to stay with me now, because what happens next is going to make you angry. It's going to make you question traditions that have been accepted for generations. And it's going to show you why this story needs to be told. Don't click away. Amaka needs you all to witness this. 3 days after Chike's burial, his family came, not to comfort Amaka, not to help with the children. They came with demands. Chike's eldest brother, Okoye, sat in the compound surrounded by other relatives and spoke with a voice that carried the weight of tradition. According to our customs, he said, Amaka must be cleansed. She must mourn properly. She must prove she had nothing to do with her brother's death. Amaka stared at him, her eyes hollow from crying. What are you saying? You must drink the water used to bathe his corpse, an elderly aunt declared, to prove your innocence. The words hit Amaka like stones. This was an old tradition, a cruel practice that forced widows to perform humiliating rituals to prove they hadn't used witchcraft to kill their husbands. No, Amaka said quietly. No? Okoye's voice rose. You dare refuse. Your brother was my life, Amaka said, her voice shaking. I carry his child. I loved him with everything in me. I will not degrade his memory or endanger our unborn baby with such a ritual. The family exploded with accusations. You see, she refuses because she's guilty. She killed him. Why else would a young man die so suddenly? She must be a witch. And then came the words that shattered Amaka's world completely. We're taking the children, Okoye announced. They're our brother's children, his bloodline. You're not from our family, so you have no claim to them. We'll raise them properly, according to our traditions. Amaka lunged forward. No, you can't. They're my children. But strong hands held her back, And as she screamed and fought, she watched them carry her babies away. Chisom was crying, reaching for her mother. Little Amaka didn't understand, asking, Mama, Mama, when are we coming back? They didn't answer him. That night, Amaka sat in an empty house, surrounded by silence, her hands on her pregnant belly, and wept until she had no tears left. But Okoye wasn't finished. 1 week later, Amaka received a letter. Chike's family was taking her to court, claiming she had no rights to her husband's property, no rights to her children, and demanding she vacate the home immediately. She had nothing. No money for a lawyer, no family of her own. They had died years ago. No husband to protect her. Just a swollen belly and a broken heart. The court date came. The small courthouse was filled with Chike's relatives, all dressed in black, all pointing fingers at the pregnant widow who stood alone. Their lawyer was eloquent and cruel. This woman refuses to honor our traditions. She rejected the cleansing ritual, proving a guilt. She has no claim to property or children that belong to our client's family lineage. The judge, an elderly man with tired eyes, looked at Amaka. Do you have legal representation? No, Your Honor, she whispered. I have nothing. Then you should find. But I have a voice, Amaka interrupted, and something in her tone made everyone stop. Amaka stepped forward, one hand on her belly, the other clutching a worn notebook. Your Honor, she began, her voice gaining strength. I've been silent for weeks, silent through grief, silent through injustice. But my husband didn't raise his voice to be silenced now. She held up the notebook. This is Chike's journal. He wrote in it every night. And in here, he documented everything. His wishes for our children, his plans for our family, and most importantly, his last will. The courtroom gasped. Chike's family went pale. He wrote, Amaka continued, reading through tears, if anything happens to me, everything I own belongs to my wife, Amaka. She is my partner, my equal, my heart. My children are our children, not my family's property. They stay with their mother, always. She looked up at the judge. He wrote this 3 months ago, Your Honor. He had it witnessed by the village chief and the pastor. It's all legal. But that wasn't all. Your Honor, Amaka said, I also have something else. Medical records from the hospital. The doctor said my husband died from cerebral malaria, a sickness that has nothing to do with witchcraft, nothing to do with curses, everything to do with a mosquito bite and delayed treatment. She turned to face Chike's family, her eyes blazing. My husband died because we didn't get him to the hospital fast enough, because we wasted time with herbs and prayers when he needed medicine. And now you want to punish me, humiliate me, take my children based on superstition and greed. The courtroom was silent. The judge read through Chike's journal, examined the medical records, and finally spoke. Case dismissed, he said firmly. Mrs. Amaka retains full custody of her children and full rights to her husband's property. And, he added, looking sternly at Chike's family, I'm referring this case to the authorities for investigation of child abduction and attempted property theft. Amaka's legs gave out. She collapsed into a chair, sobbing, but this time with relief. Her children were returned to her that very day. Chisom ran into her arms. Emeka wouldn't let go of her neck. And 3 months later, Amaka gave birth to a healthy baby boy. She named him Chike, because true love never dies. Now, before we end, I want you to think about what this story teaches us. Lesson 1. Traditions are meant to protect and honor us, not harm us. Any custom that humiliates, degrades, or harms widows, women, or the vulnerable is not a tradition worth keeping. Culture should evolve with wisdom. Lesson 2. Document your wishes. Chike's journal saved his family. If you love someone, put your wishes in writing. Protect them legally because sometimes blood relatives become strangers after death. Lesson 3. Never underestimate a mother's strength. They took everything from Amaka, her husband, her children, her home, her dignity, but they couldn't take her will to fight. Lesson 4. Justice may be delayed, but it's not denied. Amaka felt hopeless, but she didn't give up. She found her voice when it mattered most. Lesson 5. Be careful with your words. Chike jokingly asked for his wife's sickness to come to him. Sometimes the universe doesn't understand jokes. Thank you for staying with Amaka through our journey. If this story moved you, I need you to do 4 things right now. 1. Hit that like button if you believe widows deserve protection, not persecution. 2. Subscribe to African Folktales by Edwa and turn on that notification bell because next week I'm bringing you a story that connects directly to this one. It's called The Beggar's Gold, and it's about a poor man who found wealth but lost his soul until a widow taught him the meaning of true riches. You won't want to miss it. 3. Drop a comment below. Tell me, have you witnessed injustice? How did you fight back? Let's learn from each other. 4. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's going through hard times. Someone who's lost the hope. Let them know that even in the darkest night, dawn is coming. Remember, your story isn't over. No matter what you're facing, no matter how dark it gets, your ending hasn't been written yet. Fight for it, just like Amaka did. Until next time, this is African Folktales by Edua, reminding you that every story has a lesson and every lesson has the power to change a life. See you in the next story. But wait, there's something I didn't tell you about Amaka's story. 3 years after she won her court case, a beggar arrived at her doorstep. He was dirty, broken, and desperate. And when Amaka opened the door to help him, she had no idea that this beggar was about to teach her the final lesson she needed to learn. What was that lesson? You'll have to watch next week's story to find out. The title, The Beggar's Gold. Set your reminder now. This is a story you cannot afford to miss.